Professor Wergeles here. Let's come back to the slides. We're going to take a look at what exactly a JavaScript object is. Now, a JavaScript object is also known as JSON. JSON stands for JavaScript Object Notation. You're going to want to know this for an exam. What does JSON stand for? What is it used for? JSON is a syntax for storing and exchanging data. Now, the key word there is syntax. A lot of people think, oh, JSON is a language. I'm using JSON to do this. I'm using JSON to do that. No, JSON is a syntax. Technically, it is not a language. It's actually a string when it's being transported. So you'll see here, JSON is text. It's a string. It's written with JavaScript object notation. It's not a language. It's a syntax, and it's actually text that's written in JavaScript object notation. So we know that JSON stands for JavaScript object notation, but in addition, it's a lightweight data interchange format. It's self-describing and easy to understand, and JSON is language independent. These are things that I'm going to ask you on an exam. What's JSON? What is it used for? Why do people use it? It's text used to store and exchange data. Why do people use it? People use it because it's lightweight, it's self-describing and easy to understand, and it's language independent. JSON uses JavaScript syntax, but the JSON format is text only. So text can be read and used as any data format by any programming language. So I could use JSON with PHP, Python, MongoDB is made with JSON, and JSON is a very common format to use. JSON was originally specified by Douglas Crockford. You want to learn some of the history, know some basic information about JSON. What is it? Why do people use it? What does it stand for? Why use JSON? Since the JSON format is text only, it can be easily sent to and from a server and used as a data format by any programming language, which makes it so powerful. JavaScript has a built-in function to convert a string, which is text, into native JavaScript objects written in JSON format. So I call json.parse. It's going to take a string and turn it into a JavaScript object. If I receive data from a server, you can use it like any other JavaScript object in JSON format. So I'm receiving data. Once I receive data from a server, it's going to be in JSON. So it's text, and it's in a special format. Once I call JSON parse, it's going to load it into a JavaScript object, and then I can use the dot notation and use it just like any other variable. When I'm exchanging data using JSON, the data can only be text. So it's a string. It's text data. That's when I'm exchanging data between a browser and a server. So let's say I'm on a browser and I click log in, and that goes to the Facebook server. Facebook server goes and finds all the posts. It's sending the posts back to me with their title, what they wrote, and maybe some image that they've inserted, maybe some comments. So the browser sending a request to the server, server sends back JSON. JSON is text, so we can convert any JavaScript object into JSON and send JSON to the server. So sometimes the browser may send JSON and the server sends back JSON. It can be sent both ways because it's just text data that is in a special format. We can also convert any JSON received from the server into JavaScript objects. This way we can work with the data as JavaScript objects with no complicated parsing and translations. So a lot of the other formats with XML or other data formats, I have to parse it, I have to translate it, it's burdensome, it's very repetitive. But with JSON, I call JSON parse, it turns it into an object, I can start using it immediately. Let's take a look at an example. There are two things you're going to want to know for an exam. You're going to want to know how to send data and receive data using JSON. So here's sending data. If you have data stored in a JavaScript object, you can convert the object into JSON. Remember, JSON is text in a specific format, and then send that to the server. So here's an example. Var my object equal to, I have my bracket, and then I have key value pairs. So JSON is key value pairs separated by a comma. So here's my first key value pair, name equal to John. You'll see I have a colon in the middle, and then I have a comma separating my next key value pair. Next key value pair is age, which is 31, which is an integer. And then I have city, which is New York, which is a string. Now I want to take this JavaScript object and turn it into JSON. If I want to turn an object into JSON, I call the stringify. Why is it called stringify? Remember, JSON is just a string. So I'm taking this object and I'm going to turn it into a JSON string, calling the stringify method. So here's var my JSON. It's a string, and I'm going to send that to json.php. Okay, so I'm going to send this JSON string to the server. Now let's say I am receiving JSON from the server. If you receive data in JSON format, you can convert it back into a JavaScript object. So here's my JSON. You'll see it's the same format as we saw before. It's a string. So you see this single quote. I have my bracket that's starting the JSON object. Then I have my first key. Keys are always in quotes. Then I have a colon and then my value. So my value is John. The first key is name. The first value is John, separated by a comma. Then I have age equal to 31, separated by a comma. City equal to New York. Close the bracket, close the string. So here's JSON. If I go back, this is a JavaScript object. If I call my object and do the dot notation, put a period here, I can say my object.name, and that will return John. I can say my object.age, and that will return 31. I can say my object.city, and that will return New York. Over here, this is a string. So if I do my JSON dot, I may have the length function, but I'm not going to have very many functions to do, and I can't do the dot notation to access the data in the JSON. However, if I call json.parse and pass in the string, it's going to turn it back into an object. Once it's an object, now I can call my object.name, and it will return John. I could call my object.age, and it will return 31. And that's exactly what we're doing here. I call my object.name. It's going to return John. I'm going to change the inner HTML of the page. We're going to take a look at JavaScript objects in JSON in the next coding example. So let's go to JavaScript objects in JSON.html. We'll see you in the next video.